Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm just going to give a brief little talk on what I know about memorization. This talk is probably going to be better suited for older musicians, so those of you in high school. I'm going to look at 3 different talking points, why you would memorize something, the different types of memory we have, and just some general tips in practice when memorizing. Okay, so first of all, why memorize? Well, there are a few different reasons why. You first off might find performing with music difficult. Particularly if you're starting out, you might find reading music and playing to be very tricky, and playing from memory is just a bit easier. Sometimes the type of instrument you play can necessitate playing from memory. Often pianists will perform without music. They might be trying to look at what both of their hands are doing, make sure they're playing all the right notes, and having some extra sheet music on their stand can kind of make things a bit more difficult. Thirdly, playing from memory can help improve ensemble skills, particularly if you're playing with pianists. So if you play with the piano, usually they'll be behind you, and you'll usually be in front facing the audience. And then for to start the piece and for key areas, you often have to physically turn around and just check in, make eye contact, make sure you're about to play the same tempo with the same kind of emotions or what have you. And having a stand, kind of having your eyes glued to a stand in front of you, can maybe sometimes interrupt that process. Probably most important for me is the commitment to music and the knowledge of music that memorization brings. If you're reading, you might not exactly know where the music's going, maybe. You might not know what section comes next, what the melodies you're about to play actually sound like. If you don't have the best ear training, definitely my case. And you also might not know for certain what keys and scales you're playing in. So memorization for me really forces me to deeply learn and understand the music as well as I can. One reason people might feel adverse to memorize is they're scared they'll forget, which is totally understandable. However, that's something you can pretty easily combat with specific practice techniques. I find having a deep, solid knowledge of the music and a comprehensive memorization method really liberates me to perform with more confidence and to be more in the moment than if I was just performing off sheet music. Okay, so our second little area of discussion today is the different types of memory we have. So to start off, we have 3 stages of memory as far as I'm aware. So we have encoding, which is learning the music, storage, which is how music is stored, and then retrieval, which is how we recall the music. So that would just be learning music in a practice room, kind of revisiting it often, and then recalling it on stage while you're performing. When we talk about memory storage, we have, again, 3 different types. The first isn't as important. It's called sensory memory. So that is when something happens, you get an impression of what's just happened. But the other 2 are quite relevant. The second is short-term memory, which is information that is just there to last a short period of time. People can generally remember 7 or 8 things in their short-term memory before they forget them. And then we also have, thirdly, long-term memory, which can hold a really vast amount of information, pretty much everything you know, and can hold that memory for a very long time. So with memorization, our goal is to encode the music very effectively and holistically the first time, and then to convert our short-term memory of the music into really solid long-term memory, which we can recall in an instant when we're about to perform. Okay, so now we've looked at those different types of memory. We'll just discuss a couple of different ways of remembering music. So as far as I'm aware, in music you have a few different types of memory, aka how you can remember a piece of music. Some of these are visual memory, so how music looks on a page, the contour of the music, where the bars are located, etc. Oral listening, so just what does the music sound like? Is it aggressive? What does the melody sound like when you sing it, etc. Kinesthetic or muscle memory, so that's how it feels to play a piece, and where your hands, fingers, body move. We often rely on muscle memory in performance a lot, and that's actually the one most prone to forgetting, funnily enough. And lastly, we have theoretical memory, so the chords, scales, and keys used in a work, and the form as well. Okay, so part 3. So I'm just going to try and give some general tips that I've found helpful. So I'll just give 8 kind of short tips to help improve your memorization process in the practice room, and also to help you hopefully play from memory. Okay, so number 1 is try to engage those different types of memory. So when you're practicing, if you can try and remember what the music looks like on the page, where the bars are located, what the contour is like, etc. For oral, if you can try singing the different melodies in a piece. Can you actually do that? I found I couldn't when I first started doing stuff like this. Can you audiate? Can you imagine what the melody sounds like in your head? That's also really crucial. For muscle memory, try to be aware of everywhere your body's moving, where your fingers, hands are going, and you can also try to visualize a piece of music in your head. So try just running through music away from the instrument with your eyes closed. I like to, maybe when I'm in bed or on the bus, imagine my hands kind of floating above a keyboard, and just run through a passage and imagine what that feels like to play and what it sounds like. You might imagine your fingers shifting on a fingerboard and bowing it, or on some valve keys or whatever. These are all just kind of techniques to help you not just rely on muscle memory. Okay, so number 2 is try revisiting things more often. So generally speaking, I think it's better to revise music more regularly and for shorter periods of time. So if you're practicing something twice a week for an hour each session, maybe try practicing that thing 4 times a week for 20 minutes each section. Revisiting something often can help you solidify your long-term memory much more effectively. Kind of like studying for a test, where if you cram everything the day before, you might remember some stuff, but you'll probably forget everything in a couple days' time. But if you, a couple weeks before the exam, study things regularly, you'll probably end up remembering those things for much longer. Okay, so number 3 is one I really believe in, and that's learning music really slowly. Often people will be very keen to start making music and playing the music quickly right off the bat. But often if you do that, you'll find the harder parts of the music can sometimes escape you, and you often maybe stop or mess up in those sections. If you keep trying to run through music quickly, too fast, you might be able to perform it eventually, but it might be pretty unreliable, and it will probably just end up taking longer than if you'd learnt the music really effectively to begin with, and then sped it up gradually over time. So personally, I usually just memorize music at half tempo, and make sure I've memorized everything before I start to increase it. And then once I've done that, I'll increase the speed of each section, maybe 1 or 2 clicks a day, just so that my brain has time to really process all the information on the page, and I'm not forgetting things. If I find that I'm doing that, I'll just go back in and really solidify everything very slowly. Okay, number 4 is called chunking, which is a bit funny, bit of a funny word. Chunking is where you break the music up into smaller digestible pieces and then gradually try and thread them together. Because we can only keep about 7 or 8 pieces of information in our short-term memory, this process kind of helps me make sure that I learn each chunk thoroughly before moving on to the next one, and I'm not skipping ahead before I'm ready. So personally, I learn music 2 beats at a time, very deeply and slowly, and then I'll practice weaving all those chunks together. So for example, if I'm starting to learn a piece, I'll learn the first 2 beats really, really well with those 4 different kind of musical memories. So focusing the oral, visual, theoretical, muscle memory, etc. Then I'll try playing those first 2 beats from memory, and then great, I've got those, awesome. I'll do the same with the next 2 beats using those musical memories. Then I'll kind of thread the whole bar together and play that from memory, and then do the same with the second bar, first 2 beats, next 2 beats, really slowly, all bar 2, then bar 1 and bar 2, and then kind of just, going on and on. I find that process helps give me a comprehensive knowledge of just everything in the piece. Yeah, I totally live and die by it. So yeah, I love chunking. Okay, so number 5 is learn things correctly from the start if you can. So this one's pretty simple, but try not to commit things to memory that are wrong or not ideal. So for instance, try to go through and check your fingerings or stickings with your teacher before actually memorizing them. Try not to learn any wrong notes if you can help it. Try to incorporate the dynamics and articulations really properly from the start. Trying to unlearn incorrect things can often be much harder than just learning new things. So you probably know this if you've ever tried to unlearn a wrong note, which can be really tricky. So yeah, definitely try and learn things correctly the first time if you can do that. Okay, so the last 3 little tips are going to be focused on performing from memory and are just, again, ones that I've found useful. So number 6 is try making the music harder by multitasking. So if you can remember and play the music you're trying to memorize, but also do something on top of that, that's hopefully going to make playing the music by memory by itself easier. One great way of doing this is to count. So counting is something our teachers always encourage us to do, and it's really great to help play rhythmically and in time, but it can also help to add that extra layer of mental difficulty to what we're already doing. So if you're practicing a tricky passage, try playing the passage slowly while counting out loud and speeding that up over time to where you can do both at performance tempo. Hopefully you're probably going to have more confidence when you only have to play the music by itself. Another thing you could also do is try tapping other rhythms or polyrhythms with your feet. So if you're playing violin, crotchets, you might try tapping offbeat quavers, so like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or like offbeat semiquavers, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, or like a clave rhythmic pattern or something. Okay, number 7 is make some flashcards. So no performance is perfect, and often we have to think about what to do if we have an accident and maybe stop while we're playing. If you ever have to learn a difficult section with a lot of notes, one strategy I like a lot is practicing starting from different points in the music and not just from the start. So for that, I like to try using flashcards. So on my phone, I have this little flashcard app. And so what I'll do, it's got a shuffle function. And so I'll spend 20 minutes and just write down bar 1, beat 1, bar 1, beat 2, bar 1, beat 3, bar 2, beat 1, etc. Until I've written down every beat in a passage. Then I'll put it on my music stand with my sheet music there of the music. I'll press shuffle and it'll come up maybe bar 1, beat 4, and then I'll look at the music and try playing from bar 1, beat 4, maybe for like a bar or something. And then I'll just go through the whole set of cards till I've started from every beat in the phrase, and I'll do that a few times over a few days, and then I'll try taking the music for that passage away. Press shuffle, comes up bar 1, beat 4, and I have to try and see if I remember how to start from that beat. And so I find that can be really illuminating because it lets you know that, well, hey, if I mess up in bar 3, I don't really know how to get back in, which can kind of increase your nerves if you're really worried about a tricky section and, oh, well, if I mess up, well, I don't know what to do. So even just being able to start each bar, starting bar 3, bar 4, and keeping track which bar you're up to while you're playing can really help to kind of alleviate some of that pressure. And so finally, last but not least, number 8, try making some checkpoints. So this is one strategy I like a lot, and it really kind of helps put me at ease when I'm playing from memory. I like to learn the start of each section of a piece really well. And so that way, if I'm playing with other people and I make a mistake and maybe, I don't know, we don't know where we are, I get out or something, I can just stop and say, let's go from letter D or figure 2, and we can keep playing without having to stop. So instead of the worst case scenario being we finish the performance early and walk off stage, we just stop for a few seconds, regroup, and keep playing, which helps, again, kind of take some of that tension off when playing. Awesome. Well, that's all I had to share with you today. If you give any of those tips a try, let me know how they work for you. If you have any questions as well, or if you have any of your own tips, I'd love to hear from you. So thank you for listening, and I hope I see you soon. Bye.